So I have a super exciting video for you today. I believe that if you really understand what I am about to present to you, that you would go very far in life. And this will answer a lot of questions that you have about how to discern amidst all of this crazy conspiracy, truth, and stuff like that. So I'm not here to tell you what to believe, to preach to you, all that stuff. I'm just trying to present to you a frame of reference for which you can see, you can begin to understand how to get to certain areas and navigate this progressive journey of seeking the truth. And I believe that you can really understand that if you navigate this process. And this video is for everybody. I often tell people this video is for people that are more advanced, they know stuff, what's going on, and other people that are more mature Christians and all that stuff. But this video is literally for everybody. And I'm going to make it as simple as possible. I have a lot of presentable material. I also have some clips. I have various things I'm going to show you. And I'm also going to bring real life examples. I'm going to talk about certain popular conspiracies, what I believe, what I don't believe, because a lot of people ask me, if you believe this, do you also believe this? And I'm going to talk about how to navigate all of this because we have the elections coming up. We have all sorts of things that are being thrown out. And we also have, in some sense, an existential crisis with regards to theology and what's happening in the church. So I'm going to touch on all of that as examples. And so it's going to be very exciting. I'm going to show you something that I have prepared, and we are just going to get right into it. What you have to understand about how to seek truth, this growth journey, this discernment sort of process, is that there's this slope here, right? And so it's going to make sense a little bit later. This is you or somebody. And in order to get to the next level, you have to, first of all, recognize, humble yourself to say that there's something that's far away that I don't understand, and I want to get there. And two things that I want to say right up front is, in order to really understand something, you have to actually be hungry for it. You have to be hungry for the knowledge. If you're trying to seek God, if you're trying to seek the word, you have to be hungry for this word, this Bible, and I'm showing it here. You have to really be hungry for knowing the truth. You have to be detail oriented. You can't just skim through something and just get the shortcut. You have to really understand by taking some time, praying through it, and then saying, let me do some due diligence and research, right? You don't want to take any shortcuts. And so the way I explain it here, and this will make sense a little bit later, is that anything that you, basically after you wrestle with something, any simple life concept, you would accept it, and this is my legend, anything in the green circle, is that you believe that this is true and that it's right. And until you have any reason to believe that you can disregard it, it's something that you can really incorporate into your life, your lifestyle, your ideology, your outlook on just how this perception of reality is and all that stuff. If it's wrong or you're skeptical about it, as you see here, anything that's moderate, a moderate life concept, some advanced, difficult life concept, then it's far away from you. But until you really try to navigate to move up, then you're not going to understand that. And you just have to accept that. This is not anything negative against any person. This is not marginalizing any one group, any of that. It's just how it is in life. And the position you must always take, humbly speaking, is I may not understand it. I may not fully get it, but I want to understand it. As I said before, you have to be hungry for knowledge. You have to be hungry for detail and not be dismissive. This is the concept for everything. And people that don't move up this scale are people that want to live in their own world. They are ignorant, or they just, they're delusional in some sense. Like I want to believe what I want to believe, and I don't want to navigate up into understanding bigger, better things in life. And so this is what it is. And if you really are a seeker of truth, if you really want to desire more for your life, then you have to move up the scale. And so that requires from all facets of life, right? Whether it's spiritual stuff, whether it's understanding the world so that you can make better decisions for your health, for your finances, for your job, whatever it is, you have to move up this scale. And so let me give you some examples from Christianity. As a Christian, or even if you're a non-believer, this is your scale. The scale here is that if you're far away from God or anything of God, then you're not going to understand certain things. And again, maybe I'll put this as a newborn Christian or something like that. If it's closer to you, most Christians will, if they fully understand what the gospel message is, then you would understand that in this time period, that Jesus is the only way. The death and resurrection, you must believe, you must have faith in the gospel that we know that is taught by Paul today, which is the death and resurrection of Jesus. And this comes in many places in the Bible. And again, I'm not going to get into a huge Bible study here, but most Christians will believe this. And even if you're not a Christian, then you would know that once you get here, this is one of the first things you got to understand to be a born again believer, so that you would know what it means for you in terms of being reconciled back to God, and that you can have a ticket in some sense to heaven. And then you move on to other things like, total depravity, the concept of grace, the nature of faith, understanding God's timing, and just various other sort of deeper theologies. And then stuff that's very far away that I would argue, right, that you may not be able to get to yet is stuff like the end time stuff, other stuff like salvation interpretation. And what I mean by that is that if you know the gospel today, you would know, if you move up here, that there's a different gospel in the tribulation period. It's called the everlasting gospel. And the gospel that Paul taught is different than the gospel that Jesus taught. And it's obviously different than the gospel of the Old Testament, and how by works the Israelites had to be saved. And so it may be to you like a shocking thing, like, what, there's a different gospel? Yes, there's a different gospel, because it's a concept that we know that theologians would talk about as dispensation. And so if you don't know the Bible, if you don't read the Bible, you will not understand that there is a gospel that we have today in the age of grace, in the church age, in a sense, that as Paul talks about, like in 1 Corinthians 15, where he says that the death and resurrection, on the third day he rose again. And this is by faith, not by works, that we have to believe. This is Galatians 2:16, knowing that a man is not justified by the works of the law, but by the faith of Jesus Christ. Even we have believed in Jesus Christ, that we might be justified by the faith of Christ and not by works of the law, right? And so there's many verses talking about what this gospel is, but Paul calls it my gospel, and it's different than the gospel that will be preached in tribulation by another angel, and this is called the everlasting gospel. I don't have time to explain all of that here, nor do I have time to explain about the difference between the rapture and the second coming, and that most people believe there's pre, mid, post, right? There's these things, and also about the eschatology, end times. Other people, they don't want to hear about gifts. They don't want to hear about like prophecy. They don't want to hear about visitations to heaven and back. They don't want to hear about this. They say things like, I just tell me what the word is, and that's it, and vice versa. And so if you are a Christian, you're a believer, you would know that there are certain things that are closer to you, that are easier to understand. And then as you move up the scale, as you grow in some sense, and this may not be all the topics, there's other things down here, there's other things up here, well, this is how it looks to you until, and again, you may look at all of this because you are far away from all of this, and you group all of these things together as, oh, that's your interpretation. Oh, that's just crazy. It's too much for me. And if you're this far away, then everything looks skeptical. Okay, you got to understand something. All of this to you, because it's so far away, you will look at it as a big clump of, oh, that's all crazy. And there may be differences in everything, but once you move up, right? Once you move up here, then you're going to discern, check this out, what things are, right? The scripture, and again, this is not a matter of like, oh, you're right, you're wrong. When you understand and it clicks for you, then the Bible clearly talks about a pre-tribulation rapture. There is a rapture, and then in 7 years, there will be a second coming. There will be a 1,000-year reign of Jesus Christ on earth, and this will be followed by judgment and all that stuff, and then eternity in heaven. So all of it, and I put this in gray because there's a lot of things to talk about here, but the other stuff, interpreting salvation, interpreting spiritual gifts, understanding that there's a pre-trib, like once you get here and you grow in your theology, your understanding, then you can discern what is right and what is wrong. But you have to individually wrestle with this. And as I said before, you have to have a hunger for knowledge. You can't just read the Bible and say, oh, you know what, I just skimmed through Revelation and Daniel and Isaiah, and that was that. It's hard to you just gotta read it like a mystical, like Harry Potter type story, haha, and laugh it off. No, you have to be a student of the Word and get detailed so that you would understand what's right and what's wrong. And this here means that you need to move up this growth phase. You have to move up. You have to get deep. You have to really hunger for it, right? And then you can understand what's what, and you can discern bad theology with good theology. Let me give you another one, right? A lot of people talk about once saved, always saved. the Bible talks clearly about that you will be sealed with the Holy Spirit to salvation. So once you are saved in this age, that in this time frame, you will be saved. There's nothing you can do to take away your salvation. Now, later on in the tribulation period, you have to do a works-based salvation. Okay, and again, I don't have time to talk about it, but you can lose your salvation. Your name can be blotted out from the Lamb's Book of Life, and that's why in Matthew 24, Jesus talks about persevering to the end during this time period. Matthew 24 talks about a far period down the line during the tribulation period for which a lot of people will confuse that understanding for today's time. And this is why you have to rightly divide the word of truth. This is what the Bible talks about with regards to growing in your knowledge and working out your own salvation with fear and trembling. You have to do this to understand the differences between what people are saying in the scripture, because there's dispensation, rightly dividing the word of truth, the word of knowledge, right? And so this is where what I'm talking about with regards to moving up. The same happens, right? And I'm gonna go off today, guys. The same happens for conspiracy. Anything for which you look at conspiracy and it's far away to you, right? It's something that's crazy, like Q and Anon. There's a difference. And again, let me talk about this, and I'll give the example about flat Earth and trafficking, sacrifices, devolution, continuity of government, Trump as commander-in-chief, military occupation. All of this stuff, if you are not researching this and you're maybe down here, right? You understand there's biased news. Yeah, okay, I get that. There's conservative news, there's more liberal news and all that stuff. Maybe if you got a little deeper, you would look at, okay, maybe there is a global elitism. Maybe there are secret societies. Maybe there is a global banking elite. Maybe there is something to be said about all of these crazy things that people are saying as cover-ups, three-letter agencies, some sinister thing. Maybe you may believe in certain things like that, give or take. But then getting to the next level of I don't even want to say these words, right? But it rhymes or sounds similar to adrenaline, right? So kids, right? Trafficking, like all this stuff, right? And I'm going to talk about this flat Earth in a second, because a lot of people ask me about that. What's your take on flat Earth and all that? But this is the perfect opportunity for me to do so, because again, instead of just believing this group, because a lot of people will group these guys together, oh, those far right or those conspiracy theorists or those cute people or those Trump people, and I'll give you some clips here in a second. They group them all together, right? But this is if you're down here. If you are down here and you are looking at something so far away as that's crazy talk. That's crazy talk. What you have to understand is that you have to move up this ladder. You have to move up this ladder so that when you're here and you're dealing with all of these one by one, and you are by process of testing it, wrestling with it, eliminating it, and being open, you're being humble, and you're saying, man, I really want to get into the mindset of what everybody believes. Then you can go ahead and make your determinations. Now, I'm not a flat earther. I'm just going to be straight up, and I'm going to talk about why that is. I've explored it. I've understood it. I've gone to the depths of it, but I have rejected it. And so this is a good example for which, if you're up here, you would understand that we are in some kind of a military operation. You would understand that we are in a continuity of government following the 2020 election. Trump is the commander-in-chief, that Q exists, and it's beyond coincidence now. There's a lot of Anons. They're doing a lot of great work. There is this. You can look up footage of children screaming, and you can see if you go into the the dark web and all that stuff, you would see these footages. It's crazy, right? The flat earth stuff, it's very convincing. And let me say this about flat earth, because I'm going to explain here this in a second. If you just laugh at this concept right away, like, haha, those stupid people, why would they believe that the ice wall exists and then all of a sudden it drops off, right? And then the earth just falls over, haha, you're laughing about that. First of all, if you're laughing about something like that, you don't understand what they actually believe. You don't understand that it's not just somebody falling off an edge. That sounds stupid. What they would tell you is that it goes far beyond, and we don't know what's beyond that area, right? We don't know what's way out there. And so if you're immediately dismissive of this and you're laughing it off, then your ability to discern and to really wrestle with the truth is not for you, because your arrogance, your pride is there to which you're not humbly trying to understand their perspective, their ideology, so that you can either accept it or reject it. This is the process of going through the truth. And so let me tell you some things about flat earth and why I have rejected this, because I understand a lot of the stuff, right? I understand the ice wall stuff. I understand the sun moving around and how the day and night and all, like everything, and even the firmament, all that stuff. There's stuff that people confuse that, yes, in the Bible, it talks about the firmament, it talks about a lot of things, but you're confusing certain things, certain truths with other things and then justifying an ideology like this. And so let me show you exactly what I'm talking about here, because those that look at the flat earth, and this is just one example, right? This is Gleason's map. I think it's based on Samuel, the azimuth equidistant projection, right? Samuel Robotham, right? And again, this is anything new. Australia is over here. You have South America Africa over here, South America over here. And what a lot of people will say is that it's impossible to go from here to here. A lot of flights will go this way. And there's a lot of things that sound good, right, about that. But one way that you can immediately dismiss this is that you can go on a flight yourself right now from South America or Africa to Australia. And you can take this flight right now, and it takes 11, 12 hours, right? Africa has several flights going from Johannesburg, Cape Town, just different parts of Africa, all the way to Argentina and Brazil and Sao Paulo and these things. You can look this up right now. And there's other flights, right? Ethiopian Airlines right now has ET506. It goes all the way from Addis Ababa all the way to Sao Paulo, Brazil. And so this in Ethiopia. So this flight here, among many, takes 11, 12 hours. What is this? 12 hours and 10 minutes, nonstop, right? Same goes for Australia. There's several Australian flights, Qantas and LATAM. You can take these flights right now. These flights, this one from Sydney all the way to Santiago, Chile, right? This is a flight here that is basically, it goes the opposite direction. This is a 12-hour flight, 12-hour, 30-minute flight. This flight goes here to here. And there's many more of these types of flights. And you can go study this, you can look at it, you can look at the direction of it. There's past flights, you can book it right now. There's no conspiracy of people saying that, oh my gosh, like I'm hiding the fact that this flight from Ethiopia to Brazil is taking me more than 12 hours. Because if you look at the map here, it's impossible, right? A flight cross-continental across the U.S. Look at this little bit here, even from where I am, Chicago to the West Coast, which I've done hundreds of times, literally hundreds of times when I was a management consultant. That would be 4 hours. Now you multiply either 4 or 6 if you want to go east to West Coast, and look at the distance. Again, everything's equidistant on this map. If you go from Sydney, about 6 hours, another six. It would take a nonstop flight from here to here would literally have to take you more than, 24 hours, 20 hours if it's fast. Let's say 6 here, six. Even that, it takes a lot. How do you go from here to here in 12 hours? You can do this right now. The same goes for Ethiopia to here. You can do this right now. It doesn't, on this map, it's going to take you a way long time. Cape Town, Johannesburg, sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong, all of this distance is going to not take you 12 hours, right? People talk about, well, if you go on a flight, you can see the earth and it's not flat, right? Well, there's a video I saw the other day about the degree to which you have to see the scale of it, right? So this here talks about the earth's curvature, why you can't see it. If you zoom in, you realize that it's so much smaller than you think. Mount Everest here, you zoom in and the degree to which you see a tree, a table, and even if you go up a little bit onto the Earth's curvature, you realize that it's that crazy, right? Earth is that big, that crazy, that when you do fly over it, you're not going to see some crazy curvature. You're going to see it being flat. And you can see that right now when you get on a plane. But you have to understand the scale. So this type of stuff immediately debunks it, right? So, and it's reason, it's logic. You can go do it right now. You can go fly this route, any of these routes right now, and this is how you debunk something like this. And so that's why, and let me show you this clip, and this is why I'm bringing this up, because a lot of people are harping on conspiracy theorists and all that, but you have to have an inquisitive, hungry mind for the truth. So this is Logan Paul talking about his thoughts on Ryan Garcia. So I thought this was very good for a lot of people who currently have this sort of view. You're at a lower scale and you're viewing up at somebody who is wrestling with the truth. Okay, so let's look at this.
I got to say something about Ryan.
Please.
I'll say one thing.
Just,
all right, Ryan's a good friend. He's obviously in some sort of mental breakdown, a manic state. That's what this is. Ryan has been intrigued by conspiracies.
True.
In the past.
Yep.
In fact, on this very podcast, he told us he thinks the earth is flat.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Now I'm going to remind you that the earth is not flat. I think flat earthers are some of the dumbest motherfuckers walking this flat earth. If you believe that, what else are you susceptible to believing?
Yeah.
It invalidates potentially everything that comes out of your mouth.
So do you see here how it's easy for us to look at somebody who is involved in truth and conspiracy and invalidate them because they're not really sold on certain things. They're wrestling with it, especially with Ryan Garcia. He's talked about a lot of things that are true, but there are certain things like flat earth that I don't believe, that many believe, and they're grouped into one category. And as I've said before, if you are in this position, like Logan is right now, he's looking up at a group, a cluster of people and judging them because he rejects something that he believes is not true, and therefore he clumps everybody else together that are in the conspiracy camp or the right camp or whatever truth camp, the crazy camp, and dismisses it. The same happens when you look at Christianity. Anybody that does not know God, or they've had a bad experience with somebody of a sort of quote unquote extreme group, right? The charismatic group, or the people that talk about prophecy, or somebody that talks about this rapture or whatever that is, right? And even within the rapture, there's people that incorrectly time it. They believe that he's coming tomorrow or next year. He's not coming tomorrow or next year. Even that, I have a view of it's going to be a few hundred years. And I can talk about timeline at some point, but even this gets people riled up because again, you're grouping people that are more quote unquote extreme when you are in a position of a lower ladder in this ramp of moving up to truth and understanding because you're grouping other people together. And so this happens everywhere. It's stereotyping, right? It's generalization, bias, prejudice, assumptions, profiling, whatever you want to call it. But it's hard for you to move up because you are dismissive of certain things because you are looking at it from a I'm here and you're there perspective, and you don't really fully understand it because you're not, again, in the midst of it. You're not in the midst of it to be able to really discern what it is. So you're not in the middle of this to discern it. So this is the problem that's happening right now because people are on different scales and they're at different points of their journey, and there's others, they're arrogant, they want to laugh it off, they dismiss them, and then they never want to have to do with the whole truth movement because they see somebody crazy and they're dismissive, and then it basically forbids them from moving into things like, okay, let me explore what this Q thing is. Let me explore if there is some kind of devolution and continuity of government. Let me just explore if there is what they say with regards to the trafficking, the sacrifices and all that stuff. Because again, if you're down over there, if you're down here, then you're going to look at it as, oh, that's crazy to me. And so this is what's happening, guys. And the message I want to say is that you have to look at each item individually. And I don't say this in any arrogance, but God has grown me significantly in knowledge, in wisdom, and just discerning the world. And he's done so that he would now call me to this kind of platform. I could have stayed and done my thing with any other thing that I wanted to do in life. And to anybody's standards, my parents, a Korean standard or whatever standard, I've ticked a lot of boxes. I've done well for myself. I've seen where I could have taken my life. But because God has called me to this great awakening and this movement and what we have going for us in the future, I have a different role. And I'm saying that only because for many of us, if we so choose to, like I said before, you so choose to desire truth, you desire knowledge, you're hungry for it, you want to get into the detail, then you can get there too. And I'm in this position because I have been in this mode of, man, what's really going on? I want to figure this out, Lord. I know people call him crazy. I know people call him a conspiracy nut job and they, calling him names and everything. But I really want to know. I really want to know what's going on. people having prophetic dreams, people saying all these things. Like, I want to know that next level of my spiritual life. I want to know the next level of what the eschatology thing is. I don't want to just skim over Revelation and read it because it's boring to me. I want to like look at it verse by verse. I want to understand the King James Version. I want to understand what that means as it relates to Greek and Hebrew and all this stuff, right? And so I want to know this stuff. And so this is why God has brought me to a place for which I've been more open to understanding. Again, this is not in any arrogance, but you can get there too. But your heart, your posture must be in a position for which you can receive this kind of information. So I say this, guys, from a position of love and encouragement, but also that this is what's going on, but you have to understand it big picture. And so be encouraged, guys, because more people are waking up, more people are understanding this. And if you believe that this really helped you, I would love a comment below. And just other things, your own thoughts, because again, we're all in this together. We're all trying to figure this out together, and we need to bring people along in this journey. But you cannot also accept other things that are either not right or basically diluting, convoluting the message, or dismissing, having ammo to dismiss the whole movement because people are being irresponsible with their stewardship of the knowledge that they're given. The same goes for Christianity. There's a lot of bad apples that are ruining it for other Christians and non-Christians that are trying to get into who God is, who Jesus is. And so again, theology is being corrected. The biblical understanding of what we know of salvation today is being corrected. Our perception of reality and what's going on, all of that is being corrected. And we're in a time of a great correction, a great awakening, a great exposure. Love you guys. Talk to you guys very soon.